People are scared to date often because they're worried about, but what if I'm not ready? And what if I don't feel the timing's right? No, the great thing about now is that you can do it at your pace. You can work within your own framework, your own parameters.
In this episode, why we are falling out of love with dating online and falling in love with dating offline.
So there's been an interesting shift lately whereby it seems that we are falling out of favor. The dating apps are falling out of favor, and actually it's almost causing more confusion because people have relied on dating apps for so long. So it's kind of there's a bit of a panic. What on earth do you do? So first of all, let's start with why do you think people are turning away from the apps?
So people are turning away from the apps for a number of reasons. We've seen that the stock price of all the major app providers has tumbled through the floor. We've got hundreds of thousands of people leaving the apps in their droves. If we're looking at figures from last year compared to this year, Tinder has lost something like 600,000 users between 2023 and 2024. Hinge has lost over 100,000. Bumble's users fell by just under 400,000. So these are pretty big figures that are being bandied about. Not good news if you are an app provider, because of course you're losing a huge amount of your clients. And so when you get this kind of number of people walking away from dating apps, it's something much bigger is going on. We're seeing something greater. It's not just the usual seasonal variance. And as a matchmaker, I'm seeing it too, but we're getting the opposite. We're seeing that year on year, our client inquiries have gone up over 60% year on year between 2023 and 2024. So at the same time, the offline dating is nosediving. I can tell you it's not because people have decided they don't want to date anymore, because of course that would be a natural conclusion. Well, if people date online, that's the main way they date. If they've stopped dating online, it's because they want to remain single. Absolutely not. We have seen 60%, just over, increase year on year, which tells us people want to date. They just don't want to date online.
And why has it had so much bad press? I mean, we've heard a lot of scams, scam stories. We've heard, I know, with friends of mine who talk about sort of the relentless kind of loop of despondency, where you're trying to get a date, hoping to get a date, and then sort of being crushed by lack of response or by people who seem to enjoy engaging with you, and actually you never get to the point where you see them. The whole point of a dating app, the clue's in the title, isn't it? You want to get a date.
And you've nailed it. And YouGov did a survey a number of years back. They showed that 29% of people who were online on the dating apps were actually in monogamous relationships, so committed monogamous relationships. They were only online, that's almost a third of the people that are online, to get that kind of boost, to get someone's flirting with them, someone's talking to them, someone's interested in them.
That's so depressing.
You were serious about finding love online, you've got to wade through the 29%. We also have Netflix had their TV show out last year about the Tinder swindler. And so that again has highlighted online dating fraud, and it's brought that to the forefront in a lot of people's minds, that they worry, they fear that they might get conned. So they're now thinking, well, we know that a lot of people are simply not looking for love. They're there for fun. We know that a lot of people are potentially going to try and take our money. It makes it hard for people to trust. How can you trust that the person you're talking to and communicating with is real? How can you trust that the person you're talking to and communicating with actually wants to meet up with you? And of course, because I'm a date coach and a matchmaker, I'm able to provide quite a bit of guidance on that. I can help people with that. But if you're on your own and you're trying to find love, that can be really hard.
And are we, is this what's happening in the different generations. So presumably the majority of people who are this is absolutely a presumption of mine, people on dating apps are of a younger generation. And is it them that are falling away, or is it kind of intergenerational?
Dating apps now span nearly every generation. If you're in your 70s, you can be dating online. If you're in your early 80s, you can be dating online, exactly the same as your 20s. It doesn't really have right now a generation that's involved in it. Obviously, the very early adopters at the beginning were a younger generation, but it's a cycle. Everything goes through a cycle. And if you think at the very early onset of online dating, people thought it was maybe for weirdos. They thought it was something dark and mysterious and not to be trusted. It then went through the arc of being hugely popular, hugely successful, and now is swinging, the pendulum is swinging the other way, and people are not wanting to be online. And we've talked about some of the reasons, but there are more reasons. When you date online, men will know this listening. If you date online, you'll know that you swipe yes on everyone. And you swipe yes on everyone to give yourself the best possible chance of someone saying yes. Conversely, if you're a woman and you spend far more time making decision about who it is you want to select, quite often what that means is, let's say you select 10 of the 100 and the guy's chosen 100. When you pop up, you might not be what he's looking for whatever reason.
So what you're saying is, women are pickier than men.
Women are pickier than men. Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes to our detriment, sometimes not. Biologically, historically, we know why women have to be pickier than men. When we're pregnant for a 9-month period, a 10-month period, and then we're incredibly vulnerable. So we have to select a partner that we know is going to be there for the longer term. But men, of course, can make multiple women pregnant at the same time. They don't need to be as selective in terms of a partner. They're not going to find themselves in a very vulnerable position over the course of the pregnancy and after. So women do have to be more selective. But some of the things we're seeing, some of the date coaching that I'm seeing is not necessarily the approach that I would take. There's a big movement towards trad wives. There's a big movement towards men as the protector and benefactor. That of course made sense in the days when women couldn't get a mortgage. It made sense in the days when we couldn't have our own bank account. You needed to ensure that you were with someone who could provide because you weren't able to, you couldn't. Not that long ago, you had to give up your job if you were pregnant or about to have a child. Certainly my mum's generation had to do that. So we're not in that space right now. But there is a huge subsection of society moving towards that. And I've talked about tradwives before. I think the movement is getting bigger. I think the idea of wanting a man as provider, protector, who's going to be paying for this lifestyle that very few people can achieve, has really taken a hold in the psyche of a lot of people that are dating. Not necessarily something I'm positive about.
And is that has that gained momentum through Instagram accounts, like the American woman on the farm with her 8 children running around, and she makes, do you know her name?
I do. And I'm going to be very careful not to necessarily name it. I think with what you've said, people will know who you're talking about. Very, very popular on TikTok, and they also have a business. And this was exactly as you said. It was very interesting recently because she had a lifestyle where you would kind of wholesome, every single meal is baked from scratch. The bread, the meatballs, the mozzarella, everything is made and baked from scratch while she's got these incredibly beautiful children running around with kind of the kind of old fashioned prairie outfits. It is idyllic. It looks fabulous. But there was a Times article talking about when they went to interview her, and they discovered that she doesn't have nannies in the background. She doesn't have a social media team in the background. She is allegedly, entirely on her own doing all of these tasks. And in the article, it said that she actually sometimes has to go to her bed for a week on end because she's exhausted. She's exhausted. She's exhausted. And, I have one child and I'm exhausted at the end of the week. And I can tell you, I'm certainly not making all of our meals from scratch.
Yeah, I think we should all know that, if it looks too good to be true, it usually is. I mean, I'm sure she's happy and fulfilled in all sorts of ways, but the idea of a sort of perfect life doesn't exist for anyone, and so kind of not to be caught up on that, because that, apart from anything else, you get even more depressed if you think that's what you're trying to attain, because you ain't never going to get there.
But on top of that, she's Mrs. America and she's insanely beautiful and appears to be incredibly kind and giving and is a woman of faith. So, the more you read about her, the more kind of in awe you are of her. And as it turns out from the article, she could have been a professional ballerina. She was exceptionally talented. So she's in some ways given that up for this life. But what we see in social media is not reality. And social media has got a big part to play in what's happening in the dating world right now in terms of totally unrealistic expectations on ourselves and on other people.
But just to be serious about that trend, it does have it does impact on people looking at it, thinking that the role of the woman in a traditional environment, that's quite compelling to see that, and it's interesting. Maybe that's part of why we're seeing people coming away from dating apps, because we're going back to not just wanting a traditional relationship and traditional marriage, but we're wanting to meet that person in a traditional way.
Yeah, and I think you've absolutely nailed it. There's a lot about taking a step back, viewing things differently, and trying to come back to love. And people haven't decided they don't want to fall in love anymore, or they don't want to find the right person. What they want is to find still a genuine connection. Standards might be changing, standards might be altering, but you're absolutely right. If you want to have something very real and very authentic, people often do now want that to be either more organic or through personal recommendation, which is why, as a matchmaker, we're seeing huge volumes of people coming to Drawing Down the Moon in order to apply for our services. We can't take them all on, but we have seen this huge trend towards, I want something a bit different. And again, we're not necessarily getting the people coming to us who are looking for a trad lifestyle. I mean, that we are not the matchmaker for trad lifestyle. We're really the matchmaker for people who are on a similar level, who want to meet someone who's a thinker, who want to meet someone who's ambitious and capable and had and having an interesting life. But we do see that trend towards people wanting to get off the apps, to get off the online version and move to meeting a genuine connection, either through an introduction through a friend. And I've talked about that before. I love the idea of people meeting through friends, or using a matchmaker like us as your trusted friend to get where you want to get to, which is to find true love.
And actually, what you're saying is that, or what it seems to me, is that shared values are so much more important than looks. I mean, inevitably you want to be attracted to somebody, but actually by talking to somebody, it's having values in common, which is going to give you longevity at the end of the day.
You have to be attracted to someone, but this concept of attraction is so unique to all of us. And someone's handsome or irresistible is someone else's wouldn't touch with a barge pole. So that attraction is so deeply personal. And I think often we have this belief that we've got to look a certain way or be a certain way to attract this match. And I always laugh because there's lots of matchmakers or date coaches who talk about they're the billionaire matchmaker, the billionaire date coach, and they're going to coach you into how to meet a billionaire. And most of it's absolute nonsense. I've worked a lot with billionaires in my career, and they are looking for what most men, if we're talking about male billionaires, are looking for what most men are looking for, which is natural and real. Female billionaires want the same as well. They want someone who's real, someone who's authentic. They don't want fake. And that's why the very simplest advice that we give as date coaches and matchmakers is be yourself. The simplest advice is often the hardest. You don't have to pretend to be someone other than you are to find someone fabulous, because we want to find someone that's got the quirks and something unusual and interesting. We don't want someone who's a generic copy of someone else. And when men come to me and they give me their list, and these are men who are wealthy, who are paying a lot of money for my service. And when men come to me with their wish list, it's never the skinny, it's never blonde and busty and all of the things that you can imagine we're all trying to attain and achieve. The number one thing that paying men, ask me for is someone who is kind. The second thing they ask for is someone who hasn't had any plastic surgery. Those are the two things that I get asked for by paying men who use our service.
And I think it's important to proviso that as a woman of a certain age, to say that when you talk about plastic surgery, I presume we're talking about obvious plastic surgery. You know, your little kind of your secret little bits and bobs that you might have done that aren't obvious. Don't panic about that.
I'm a big fan of the secret bits and bobs, and they cannot tell it all. We're talking about significant filler, the stuff that you do that alters your body so staggeringly and so significantly because you think you have to do it to remain competitive. You don't. But if you want to do the secret bits and bobs, you do you. If you want to change your body significantly, you do you. But just know that a lot of men, if what you're doing is significant to your body, they don't like it. But it's the same thing as, often I'm when I'm meeting a chap, he'll say, I don't really like it if women wear makeup. That's also a common thing. And so they'll say to me, not when I'm wearing my red lipstick, but they'll say to me, I want someone that looks natural, like you do, just natural like you do. And I'll say, so someone natural? They'll say, yes, no, not makeup. And I'll say, yeah, but I'm wearing makeup. So I think we don't, it's.
There is no way that I would have gone out on a first date with no makeup. I mean, let's face it. Well, there's no way.
Me neither. But and again,
I think that's quite. Do you know what? I actually think that's quite sweet. I think it's. I don't know. Do I think it's sweet or alarming? I don't know, or just naive.
I think it's quite sweet. I think it's quite sweet, and men often don't notice. I mean, I remember years and years and years ago in my office, we had a lady who had alopecia, and she wore a wig every single day of the week. And because this was 20 odd years ago, the wigs were not the quality, well, certainly not for an everyday person, that they are now. And it was, I mean, blindingly obvious that she wore a wig. And I remember she'd been working with us for about a year, and none of the guys in the office knew. And I remember told them, I think at the Christmas party, and they could not believe that this woman had worn a wig. But for us females, it was pretty obvious, that this was. But so there is something wonderful about that. And so we often blame men for being all about appearance and all about looks. But if they can't tell that you're wearing a dodgy weave, I think we're doing okay, So I think sometimes men get a hard rap. And so a lot of what I do is about trying to right that wrong ever so slightly.
Well, my ultimate heroine, Joan Collins, I'm sure has a house full of wigs, and good on her.
I wasn't sure with
why not?
A house full of wigs or a house full of men. She's utterly fabulous. I completely agree. And Oliver, well, look at Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton is my heroine. So we both like our wig lovers. So Dolly Parton is my heroine, and she does not look for a second like she's wearing a wig, but she's very proudly a wig wearer, and I think she looks exquisite as well. So
yeah. I think what you're basically saying is have the confidence to be yourself, because ultimately, if you're trying to put on a show and be some 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 something else, first of all, it's going to be ridiculously tiring trying to keep up, keep up the game, and also why would you try and put forward something that's not you? And maybe that's the problem with the apps, is that you kind of write down an ideal, the ideal you, and then when you start engaging with people, you have to be that ideal person. I don't know. Is that why it's all going a bit Pete Tong?
Why it's all unfurling. It really is a combination of factors. There's also this drive towards wanting someone who looks, behaves, acts, earns a certain way. And some of the date coaches that I mentioned that I'm seeing now have a very different style to me. For instance, one of them in particular says that you should pick a venue for the date and then ask the gentleman what time the cab will be arriving to take you to the date. Is putting certain expectations in place.
Wow.
I remember this one particular lady also said, that the whole drive is to find someone with money no matter what. This is one of the people that's coming up right now. No matter what, find someone with money. And I remember someone wrote to them and said, but what happens if they want to have sex and they're really unattractive? And she said, close your eyes.
Oh, no.
So this is not what we're here for.
No.
This is not the date coaching that I'm encouraging. I'm here to help people find true love, to find a lifelong companion, and I'm so glad that we're here and able to provide advice that is other than the route that is a little bit escort workery.
So if you were, so let's start from let's clean the slate. Start from you're a single person. You have found yourself ready to date. What is the best combination? I'm presumably, we can't just dispel the apps. They're still around. They're not going anywhere for a long time. So would you suggest that you choose one or two apps? You choose one app, but also you get out there as well. What's your advice?
Yeah, the apps aren't going anywhere. And all that's going to happen now is if the share price is going down and if people are coming off those specific apps, it leaves open an opportunity for other apps to come in that perhaps service people that little bit better. We had apps in the past that allowed you to introduce friends. I mean, My Single Friend was one that was around a very long time ago. I actually have no idea if it's still going. I should know that. Other apps are available, but that was one where you were able to introduce friend to friend. And if the online apps are trying to copy, duplicate what's happening offline, then that's the move that they'll probably make. They'll probably try to make it more about introducing a friend. Maybe in order to be on the app, you have to be verified by someone or introduced by someone. And you can say, okay, I stand behind this guy. I stand behind this woman. I think they're both authentic people and deserving of being on here, and they're genuine, the genuine person. That might be the way that they go. If you are ready to find love, I've been saying it from day dot. You have to go out there and maximize your chances and opportunities. If you want to find a wonderful woman to have a long-term relationship with, where do the women go? Where are the women going that you think would be a good place to meet the kind of person that you want to meet? If you look in the press recently with all the debutante balls, that's a fabulous place to go if you're in your early 20s, because you're meeting other people from aristocratic families around the world who also want to meet their partner. So whatever level you are at, whatever ambitions, goals, ideas you have, if you love men maybe who are into Goodwood, go off to Goodwood. There's always opportunities. If you're into festivals, go off to Glastonbury or Burning Man. There are always going to be. Look at where you think your target audience is going to be going and go to that place. Show an interest in those things.
Do we still have a debutante ball in the UK?
No.
Well,
Do we?
most of,
I didn't even know.
most of the debutante balls are held in Europe, but there's still
Are they?
still a number of dad's balls. Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Well, I would always advocate trying a new sport. Where I don't know what it's like where you live, but round here there's lots of clubs opening with paddle tennis and pickleball and stuff that you don't need to be brilliant. You don't need to be brilliantly sporty. And actually, you can just go along and watch. If it's really not your thing, just go. And there's a new one opened in Battersea that we went to try through work. And it's fantastically social. They have music playing, and people were just coming to sit and grab a coffee or a beer and kind of watch the play. And it's fantastic interaction. It was really kind of, come and see what's going on. And yes, if you want to play, then you pay, but otherwise you can just enjoy it as a spectacle.
Right. And you don't need to be playing in order to meet the players, but you do need to be somewhere near the game. You need to be, as the cliche goes, in it to win it. You need to be turning up and attending in order to. You can always go skiing, stick the outfit on, and do more après ski than ski. But you've got to be in the environment where the people go. And I should say before we finish this little section entirely, Queen Charlotte's Ball, debutante ball in the UK, just in case anyone thought I was ignoring the debutante ball of the season. So yes, that's a place where young people can go and meet as well. Phil.
Well, if that's not your gig, I would suggest going to a coffee shop with your computer. You can pretend to sit there, look at your computer, have a little look round, but
It's all about maximizing your opportunities. And sure, throw a coffee shop in there. Ideally, you want to be going to somewhere with a large volume of people, and you can always rope a friend in. So whether it's the day at the races or it's a classic car event, I mean, that's the perfect opportunity. You just have to be open to the possibility of someone else and try really, really hard. Goes back to my slogan, love is not a list. It goes back to that, which is try your best not to discount people for small, insignificant reasons. Sure, if the way that they, eat their food and smack their lips and make funny noises and, have those little bits hanging down, which are deeply unattractive. If you're not like that at the beginning, you are never going to grow to like that. So I completely get that. But just because someone doesn't wear quite the right clothing, just because someone doesn't currently, holiday where you like to go on holiday, doesn't mean they can't change, doesn't mean they can't alter because they've met you. Now, we're not talking about a fundamental personality change, but often when people are single, they're doing different things. They're not going to the places they would necessarily go to if they were in a relationship. You've got to maximize your chances, maximize your opportunities. If you're going to be in real life dating, you've got to be going to bars, go to restaurants, ask people, say their meal looks delicious, ask them what they're eating. And you can still also interact online. I mean, social media, sliding into people's DMs, that still happens. It got a bad rep for a long time because of, the aubergine whole aubergine thing. We don't want to encourage any dodgy emojis or any dodgy things going on. But the sliding into DMs, chatting online, that's still online, but it's about maximizing all of your opportunities. I think people should still date online. I even would say to clients that are mine, that I'm looking after as matchmaking clients, don't stop doing any of the things you're currently doing. Don't turn down the barbecue. Don't turn down the cinema night. If you're dating online, keep dating online, because certainly when you are working with a matchmaker, you feel like the pressure's off a little bit. It allows you to relax more. It opens up the opportunities. And it's kind of putting it out there that you are open and ready to find love.
Yeah. And most importantly, Gillian, have fun.
Yeah, this is meant to be fun. And not only is it to be fun, but you're not supposed to go on a date thinking, do I want to marry this person? Do I want to marry this person? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It's not even, do I think this person's insanely attractive? It should be, is there something about them that's either interesting enough, intriguing enough? Is there something about them that would warrant wanting to spend another hour in their company? And you don't have to commit. And people do worry. Yeah, but if I go on a second date, what does it mean? If I go on a third date, what does it mean? Third dates do not mean you're going to have sex. This was something when I was younger. Oh yeah, third date means sex. It definitely doesn't. Don't People are scared to date often because they're worried about, but what if I'm not ready? And what if I don't feel the timing's right? No, the great thing about now is that you can do it at your pace. You can work within your own framework, your own parameters. And that is so empowering and so important to feel a license over our own bodies and our own actions. And just because you're dating doesn't alter that.
And it's very easy to think to yourself, oh, if I don't give out sexually, he's not, or he's going to go off me, he's not going to want to see me again. But actually, you know, the opposite is probably true. That the more you, the more he. Sorry, I'm getting my word up. But
you've nailed it. You've nailed it. And this is going to be,
the more you hold off, the more he's gonna want you.
this is going to be in my book. And what's going to be in my book is when I tell people that most of the men that asked me to marry them, I hadn't had sex with.
Sorry,
Both
Sorry, rewind. How many men have proposed to you?
It's a few. It's a few. It's a respectable, healthy, respectable, all wonderful men, all really a delight. And what I would say is, for anyone who's worried that they're going to go off if you don't have sex with them, what I can guarantee you is, if you have sex with a man before you've got commitment, before you know where you stand, before you know if they're dating someone else, before you know if they're with someone else, they are going to go off. So if you want to guarantee to get rid of a guy when you're uncertain, have sex with them.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because that's not necessarily what you would say. The other thing I think is really important is to not to discount somebody because of what your friends say. It's very easy to share, oh, I'm having a date with this guy, and for somebody to have a look at the picture or whatever and go, ooh, oh, he looks a bit weird or nerdy or old or hairy or whatever. At the end of the day, it's what matters is you and your connection with that person. If you think about it, do you love all your friends' other halves? Well, I don't. So, I mean, there's a few that I think are absolutely lovely, and then there's a couple that actually I much prefer just seeing my girlfriend and not with her, not with the partner.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because it's your connection, it's nobody else's.
Well, and at Drawing Down the Moon, we've been around 40 years this year. So we've seen everything, we've heard everything, we've experienced everything. The most common thing we get in terms of post feedback. So this is when they've gone on a date, we've got that feedback, positive, happy, brilliant, looking forward to second date, is a change of mind. And we look at the note, oh, great company, had a good laugh, all of them.
So we're so flaky.
I've changed my mind. And why have they changed their mind? Well, it's not just flaky. It's when the person who's gone on the date speaks to their friend and they say to their friend, oh my goodness, I had a brilliant date. This is what happened. Oh, I'm not sure if I'd like that. Oh, no, but I don't. Oh, I don't. Oh, really? That happened? And what goes from being a really enjoyable, fun date to I don't want to see the person again is the intervention of friends. And you always have to think about what are the motivations of the friend. Are they single and don't want you to meet someone because then it won't be the two of you out having fun? Are they actually a friend who wants to be with you and therefore they're always going to criticize the other person? But we all know that the moment someone points something out, you can meet someone utterly fabulous and a friend says, "Oh my goodness, but how do you cope with that nose?" And you've never noticed the nose before. And then the next time you see them, you think, "Oh my goodness, yes, there's hairs protruding or there's something. Yes, it is a very unique, very unusual nose." And now you can't stop looking at the nose. So it's like having an idea for a business or an idea for how you want to redo your house or a room or a little acorn, a little bud, a little nascent idea. Don't share it. Don't tell people because there will always be someone who says, "You can't do it. They're not right. That's not for you." You've got to try and keep it to yourself. Try to take care of it, look after it. And then, only then later on, when you're both strong in your couple, can you go out into the world and face the wrath and judgments of your friendship group.
And why is it more of a female thing that women, we talk much more openly about relationships and I know I certainly do with my girlfriends. I'm much more open with them about all sorts of things than men are with their friends. Men, it's that kind of they talk about sport, we talk about sex and friendship.
Wearing,
Cooking, I don't know.
but do we? Is that what we talk about? I mean,
I just think that if that scenario is going to happen, I think it's much more likely to happen with women. I think women are much more are going to be chatting much more about how the date went and what was he like and what's this. I don't know. Do men gossip like that?
Well, I think men probably do gossip, maybe more with their girlfriends than one another. But there's also a sense, perhaps, from women of maybe a social pressure to fit in, maybe a social pressure to pick a certain kind of person. Certainly, men do often find that social pressure, which is why it's interesting for me that quite often, if we've got an extremely wealthy person, they often, as a guy, as a man, they often ask us for a slightly curvier woman, which goes against the grain of what we're told as a society. And I often think that the reason that billionaires quite often do ask for someone who's size 14 and above is because they are so insanely wealthy that their entire friendship, no one's as wealthy as they are in their friendship group. So they can do what they want. They're not trying to impress any of the people around them. They can make the decisions that they want for their life without having to worry about how their friends might respond or react. Social pressure is a big thing when it comes to dating and who we might pick and who we might select. So it is always important to think, yeah, but what do I think? How do I feel about this person? Not what does this date coach tell me I should be looking for, or what is this rabbit hole that I've been down on TikTok say that I should be looking for in a relationship, in a life. What do I want? What am I looking for? And then be as flexible as you can with that parameter. The smaller the parameter, the longer your list. So the longer your list means the smaller the parameters, the less likely you are to find love. And the more likely you are at the end of the process to not be with someone. And if you think, well, in 10 years' time, if I'm still single and I really wanted to find someone for those 10 years, how important will it be that they've not had children? Because in 10 years' time, you're increasing exponentially the chance that they'll have children because 10 years have passed, so they'll have met a partner, had children, got divorced, separated. You have to think in 10 years' time, if I'm still single, How important will this thing on my list be? And usually, if you sit down, think it through, write it down, it's not that important. And if you're obsessed with a university degree, ask yourself why. Especially as a woman, we actually can't afford to be obsessed with our partner having a university degree. Why? Because more women graduate than men. So there's a natural imbalance already there. And you can get plenty of people with degrees who are quite frankly morons, and you can get plenty of people without a degree who are the sharpest person in the room. And what does a degree tell us? All it tells us is that someone, probably their parent, could afford to put them through university. It doesn't really mean much else. It doesn't say anything for how sharp and capable they are. Plenty of people who are sharp and capable don't get to finish university and don't get to start it.
So if I was coming to you as a single woman wanting to go on a date, and I'm fascinated to know how would you decide the right person, or the person that you thought I would be attracted to, and vice versa? What are the first things? I mean, is it height, looks, or location, values? What are the things that you would look at? And then when you send me off on my date, would you ever say, how much information are you going to give me about that other person in a matchmaking environment? So doing your job.
We're totally unique in that we don't share photographs. We don't share photographs. It's something that we don't do. A bit like a pie shop that's totally unique because they don't give you ketchup. This is how we work. This is how we operate. This is what we do. There are plenty of pie shops that will give you ketchup. We don't. And the reason we do it is we've been around so long. We've tried every single permutation, and we know that this works. And all we care about is our client's success. All we care about is you joining up with us, going through our process, and coming out the other end, if we can, in a relationship. Of course, we sometimes get people who are not in a relationship, but years later contact us to say, that second person you introduced us to, we stayed friends, and guess what? X number of years later, we've now got kids. That is what happens. That's the reality. In terms of what I'm looking for when I'm introducing clients, there has to be, again, it is not a science. It's an art, because we're dealing with people. So I will have been listening, my team of senior matchmakers will have been listening to you, what you're looking for, the kind of outlook that you have on life, the things that are important to you, your values. What is it that we could find for you? Not necessarily what you want, but what you need. That's really important to us. We're also going to challenge you. So if you have a list of criteria that we know either there's only one person in London like that and they don't want to meet with you, or if you're looking for things that don't speak to who you really are and what is actually vitally important to you. The way we try to get clients to think about it is, if you were at a dinner party and sitting next to someone, how important would the fact that they have to be able to ski be when you're sitting next to someone that you're thinking, wow, they're gorgeous, they're interesting and fascinating and charming. I want to see them again. Yeah, but they don't ski, or yeah, but they like motorbikes, or they have a child from a previous relationship. How important are those things when you're actually sitting down? Again, this is in real life, the in real life stuff, not the imaginary online list, but the in real life stuff. How important will that be? So a big part of my job as a matchmaker is to challenge people on what it is that they think that they want. And once we've got through that, of course, people are paying me a huge amount of money, but I don't want to do them a disservice. I want them to have success at the end of this. And I want to make sure that I set them up for success, not that I'm setting them up for failure. If someone says, no, this is my concrete list, these are the things I'm not willing to move on this list of 50 things. Well, either they have to pay me significantly more money to find those two people on the planet that are like that, or we're just not the right matchmaker for them. And maybe there is someone out there who's willing to take them on and take a risk that they won't have any introductions for them. And that's just not something that we want to do. We want you to end up in a relationship, but we want you to, I think I mentioned this before. I said to a client, I need to tell you that we're not manufacturing these people in a room. And I remember the response was, for the price I'm paying, you should be. So this is the tough thing. We're not at the stage yet where Elon Musk is producing the perfect human for us to say, well, here they are. We're going to introduce them. The perfect human has arrived. They don't have any empathy other than AI empathy, but and they're a little bit cool to the touch. But you'll have a great time with them. We're talking about real people, and we always have to remember that there's two sides to the equation. We can introduce you to someone fabulous, but they don't think that you're quite for them, and vice versa. But it's part of the process. If I thought that I could get you the right person first time, I'd only introduce you to one person. But I want you to come on a journey with me where you go on a number of introductions, you try out something a little bit different to perhaps what you might normally pick, you might normally select. I'm going to be introducing you to people that are outside of the circles that you're normally in. I'm going to introduce you to people that you may not normally meet in your everyday life. But I'm hoping that there's something about them, something about you that connects, and you become another of our happy stories. Or as Mary, the lady who looked after Drawing Down the Moon for decades before me, used to say, I hope that what ends up happening is that the both of you go off into the distance, because I love a happy ending.
And coming back to where we started with the dating apps, actually, everything that you are saying there was telling me why the apps don't work, because the apps are only sending you the same people again and again and again and again. Once you hit that, if you don't jump out of your algorithm and choose somebody with red hair or pink hair or long hair, or who's only 5'2" and normally you choose 6 foot or has a beard or doesn't have a beard, you need to, if you're going to go on the apps, don't be so precious, don't be so picky. Give it a much wider, allow it to cast the net a lot wider, and be brave. Go on a date with somebody who doesn't necessarily fit your ideal image of a man.
Yeah. Or of a woman. Take a risk. Be willing to take a risk. I'm not talking about taking a risk with your life, but take a risk with the kind of person that you might not normally pick. You never know what is behind that. And often when people have been single for a long time, instead of being more open, they become narrower. They say, well, I've waited this long, I deserve this thing. No, what you deserve is someone who treats you nicely. What you deserve is someone who sees you for who you are and thinks you're just wonderful. That's what you want. But you don't need someone with the same hobbies as you. You don't need someone who also loves horses, also loves golf. Sure, it's nice to have some commonalities, but the number of successful couples that I know that we've introduced where one loves sports, the other one can't stand it, but they still manage to find a common ground. And that was just one example, but we try to get our clients to open up to the possibilities, because when you're open to the possibilities, that's when love happens.
Absolutely brilliant advice, Gillian. Thank you so much, as always. And can I just say, 40 years, you're looking good. You're looking good.
Yes, started the company as a child, Carole. Thanks a lot. My 4-year-old founded a business only last week, but it's clearly in the genes.
Thanks, Gillian. Love chatting to you as always, and look forward to the next one.
And you, Carole, you're an absolute gem.